UFC 293 saw one of the biggest upsets in UFC as of recent, with underdog Sean Strickland being crowned the new middleweight champion by scoring a thrilling upset victory over rival Israel Adesanya in a way that nobody expected, taking middleweight gold and proving a point. But the two didn't get here without a different fight being fought already, the verbal fight. And oh boy, did Strickland not only just land the most shots in the octagon, but also did outside the cage in the verbal war.
Izzy, you know what? Great kickboxer. Spineless as a man, you know. God, man, we just can't let that guy be champion anymore, you know.
In most cases, it's when trash talk goes wrong. But in the case of Strickland, it's when trash talk goes right. He showed he can talk the talk and walk the walk. Welcome back to Striker's Story, where today we give you the tale of how plus 450 underdog Sean Strickland managed to upset the elite Israel Adesanya to become the UFC Middleweight Champion. After over a year of trash talk, he backed it up. The feud between Sean Strickland and Israel Adesanya dates back to July 2022. At that point, Adesanya was the undisputed king of the middleweight division, with a record of 22-1 and 4 successful title defenses under his belt, his only loss being a decision to Jan Blachowicz in a light heavyweight bout. Strickland, on the other hand, was ranked 4th in division and was set to face Alex Pereira, the man who had knocked out Adesanya twice in kickboxing. The spark that ignited their rivalry was a question from a reporter at the UFC 276 pre-fight press conference. That's when the verbal fireworks began. It wasn't just a brief exchange of words, though. Strickland kept provoking Adesanya with insults and threats, even challenging him to a fight outside the venue.
No man that beats off the cartoons is gonna beat me.
Bro, trust me. I can tell you what.
The main event of 276 came, and it was Strickland who would be knocked out by a left hook from Alex Pereira, while Izzy would once again reinforce his dominance with another title defense by defeating Cannonier. It was ultimately this night that secured Poatan the title shot and started the build-up for the clash against Stylebender Adesanya. However, Strickland would not leave the verbal exchange behind, continuing to make digs and mentioning Adesanya on podcasts, interviews, and media.
And there's also a video of him jerking off his dog, and like, dude, the guy is a fucking... Oh, man, and the fucking nail polish, and God, Izzy just fucking sucks, you guys. We need to bring back the old... Anderson Silva could come back.
Adesanya would go on to put his championship status on the line against Alex Pereira for the first time in MMA, in what would end up being a true upset loss for him. Adesanya had lost the middleweight title to the man who fans deemed was his kryptonite, Alex Pereira. Izzy was now 0-3 to the Brazilian, who beat him twice in kickboxing and now once in MMA, all being stoppages. However, Stylebender was determined to get the championship back and finally put down Poatan after all these years. A rematch was booked, and the two were set to face again almost a half a year later at UFC 287. The rematch came and the middleweight title would swap, with Adesanya scoring a spectacular KO victory over his arch-nemesis to reclaim the championship and avenge his losses, getting rid of the Brazilian curse that is Poatan. Strickland would later speak about Izzy's knockout, actually giving some props to him. The middleweight crown was back on Stylebender's head, and he was ready to resume his domination after a bump in the road. Roll up, middleweight title shot here. It was time for the first challenger. Many fighters wanted to challenge him for the title, but the first one in line was South African challenger Dricus du Plessis, who finished Robert Whittaker at UFC 290 in the second round, seemingly securing a title shot. In came a drunk Israel Adesanya into the octagon post-fight to create some bad blood based on their racial backgrounds, firing racial slurs at him in an attempt to mock his representation of Africa. As it looked to be du Plessis who was in line for the title shot, he had to withdraw from the fight due to an injury. Strickland would see this as a golden chance to jump the queue and began relentlessly trash-talking Adesanya, viciously pursuing his goal of booking a shot at the champion. Strickland would appear on the Joe Rogan podcast, where he would continue his trash talk about Izzy, going all out, firing the shots and talking about how he just can't stand him. On August 8th, it was revealed to the world that Strickland's strategy of trash talk and mocking of Stylebender in hopes of getting a shot was proved to be right. UFC President Dana White announced that the headliner for September's UFC 293 was indeed champion Israel Adesanya versus challenger Sean Strickland. UFC 293's build-up was just as expected, with media days and press conferences seeing Strickland continuing to empty the mag on Adesanya, resuming his mockery of Adesanya's fake Chinese identity, asking the press questions such as, "How much would it cost for you to hold up a Chinese flag and say I'm not black, I'm Chinese? How much? What's your dollar amount?" Strickland would also label him as cringe and weird, talking about him wearing nail polish and doing some inappropriate stuff to cartoons. Even talking about it makes me want to go take a shower. I feel dirty. Although this talk by Strickland wouldn't go unnoticed by Adesanya, it wouldn't result in a fiery reply. Stylebender, usually not one to mince words, spoke more about pressing matters while only briefly addressed his opponent. "Sean's very insecure. You only have one first impression, and if you want to be a tough guy, make it the first impression. First impression, he's a B. I didn't even mean to make him a B because I was like, hey, what's up, buddy? How are you doing? And then he was like, oh, don't do me like you did your boy Paulo Costa. We get on stage and he's like, I'll come there right now. Bro, where was this energy 5 minutes ago backstage? When he tries to do all that S to me now, it doesn't work."
Come on, Izzy, give me something, bro. What the f?
When you argue with a fool, those who are watching can't tell who's who.
Oh, there we go. Hey, you know what? You know what, man? The moment I post a video of me jerking off my dog, they will put some credibility to that.
Both fighters had weighed in successfully for their 185-pound title clash, and it was game on. Fight night had arrived with Strickland set as a plus 450 underdog, with fans completely unaware of what was ahead for him. A surprise masterclass upset was about to be outputted by the American in enemy territory, in front of nearly 20,000 fans in Sydney, Australia. The fight opened with Stylebender looking like the looser and cooler fighter, pushing off any doubts of what was about to happen during the round for him. Strickland would come out with a more boxing-oriented Philly shell guard, looking to do most of the damage with his hands, and so did he. Near the end of the opening round, Strickland would catch him with a magnificent crack of a punch which dropped him to the canvas, sending the Australian crowd wild as he looked to capitalize on this opportunity to finish the fight. Strickland viciously pounced on Adesanya up against the cage with referee Mark Goddard watching on, but Izzy managed to get to his feet and escape into the second round. The fight would play out with Sean collecting the rounds using absolute textbook striking. After 25 minutes in the octagon, there it was, UFC gold. Strickland would 4-1 Adesanya in a dominant performance using just the simple formula of a 1-2 and teep to produce a shock upset that nobody saw coming. Strickland now sits with the crown on his head at the top of the throne of the middleweight division after a thriller of a performance against Stylebender. But he best be ready for him again because Izzy is fond of avenging his losses. Strickland's cruise to victory in this fight comes after all the trash talk, proving trash talk doesn't always have to go wrong, and ultimately that he was right when he said, "No man that bleep off the cartoons is gonna beat me." The question is, just who will Strickland's first defense be against? Let us know what you think in the comments below. Thanks for watching this Striker story. Don't forget to like and subscribe to never miss the thrilling coverage of the combat world.